Good morning, folks. Welcome back to We Are the Game. I'm Luke. That's Michael. We are going to get into the NFC North and their power rankings slash win predictions for the 2025 season coming up. This will be our third episode in this series. So we're most of the way, or will be after today, most of the way through the NFC. Looking at that, though, it's just nice and clean. They were one of the most fun divisions in football last year. Even the Bears had a ton of questions going into it. Didn't turn out the way the Bears wanted. Things went downhill ever after that Hail Mary. But they should be one of the more fun divisions to watch again this year. Kind of getting us started for this year with Green Bay. Michael, go ahead. Let me know what you think about Green Bay in 2025.
Yeah, well, first thing first is taking a look kind of back. They were 11-6, like you were pointing out. Their division was pretty wild. I think that where they ended up was pretty close to, I think, within expectations. The question I think going into last year was Jordan Love and like, wait, what is he really and all of that? I think he's kind of proven himself at this point in time to be a pretty known quantity. He's a very capable quarterback. He has a good team around him, but how does he going to do kind of continuing forward? They lost some key pieces, like a lot of teams. Um, some more veteran presence on their offensive line and kind of in their running game. We'll see, that all worked out for them last year. It's like they were able to kind of step in and replace things and move forward. This year, it appears, in particular in the draft, one of the things that they worked to do was bring in a ton of wide receiver help with Matthew Golden out of Texas and Xavier Williams out of TCU, and shoring up the offensive line with Anthony Belton out of North Carolina State. So they've definitely done something for Jordan Love that they didn't traditionally do per se with Aaron Rodgers all the time, which is continue to flood him with weapons. Now we've seen other teams, and the Cardinals come to mind, with a first and third kind of draft pick wide receiver core come in with a competent quarterback, a known quantity quarterback, and try to see how that performs. Maybe they jump right in, are high performers, and maybe they're not. But I do think that a lot of their immediate success is going to rest on the outcome of those three picks. Last year, their point differential was like 122, so a high functioning defense and a high powered offense, and they're going to get tested right off the bat against against the Eagles, I think. Is that right? Let me see. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think their first game. Anyway, yeah, we'll see. But sorry, I jumped right out on there. But with all that being said, I think even in their tough division, I anticipate they're going to be about a 10-win team. So not quite enough for me to put them in the top tier, but I think safely they're in the 8 to 12 tier, even if a few of those things have bumps in the road. So, so I'll leave Green Bay there. What are you thinking about the Bears in this division?
Yeah, for the Bears, they did some good things. They've reinforced the defense. They had a lot go wrong last year. I felt like not as much on the injury front, so much as just they needed Caleb Williams to come in and be completely NFL ready. And in certain ways, he has a lot of NFL qualities, but in certain ways, he did some stuff that reminded me of Kyler Murray. Whereas in college, I can run away from everyone. I can escape anything, get away from everyone. And it took Kyler an entire season to realize, no, I can't. And I need Caleb Williams to figure that out, because I think he was sacked like 70 times last year or something just atrocious. And I'm betting 10 or 15, maybe more of those were him running into trouble rather than running out. So just bringing that number down a bit. Now, added to that, their offensive line really wasn't great. So improvements there, that's where I think they can get the best improvement, is if they can get better offensive line play, and then Caleb Williams just understanding speed of the game a bit better, then that's their big growth. That being said, they're in a crazy tough division. So I don't see them I could see them being in this bracket where they get 8 or 9 wins, but I feel like that's more their ceiling is 10. But I could see them still having a hard time getting away from like 6 or 7. So that's more where I put them. I'd love for them to prove me wrong this year. They did some stuff at guard that I think makes them better, bringing in Joe Tooney and bringing in Jonah Jackson, I believe it is. But, Tooney's getting a little older, and Jackson has had a hard time staying healthy. So if that's what you're counting on to make your team better on the offensive line, that's rolling the dice that I'm not real comfortable with. So we'll see. I'm a little bit hopeful that they'll be able to improve, because it'd be fun to see the Bears finally get like a 4,000-yard passer or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that would be fun, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to leave them right here. So surprise me, Bears. Tell me about the Vikings, though.
Well, I mean, the most notable thing of the Vikings, then moving on from Darnold, the guy, and there's been so much conversation about this, but the team wins 14 games. They lose that one particular one at the end of the season to Detroit, and all of a sudden, a guy who wins 14 games kind of ends up losing his team, and that I think is one of the big stories out of that. And it is the question that, there are a number of people who think, of course, that the team is just that good that it really doesn't matter if he's the quarterback or someone else. It would appear that they're pretty much all in at this point on J.J. McCarthy, who's looked, I mean, everybody's high on him, and I'm excited to see him really have the reins and go to town. But it's a lot. That's a lot of pressure, especially in this pretty unforgiving division. So I definitely have concerns for him as he goes in. I think that their defense probably is also in a bit of an uncertain state as far as how they've lost a couple of pieces, and they don't also they didn't really have the draft capital to shore all those things back up. I think getting an offensive tackle, a guard, in the draft out of Ohio State will be a big value to them going into the season, but they're my pick to regress considerably. I think that again, that's not me trying to say that McCarthy, I think, will be bad. I'm not naysaying him at all. I just think this is a really hard division to come in and try to perform at that level. So I've really gone back between how far do I think they're going to regress, but I'm going to say that their low is eight wins. So I'll say that they should be in the 8 to 12, sitting there with the Packers. But I would not be shocked if they did not fall into the upper part of the 5 to 9 bracket as well. I think you could put them in either one. That's where I expect to see them doing this year. We'll see if Josh Jacobs can take some of the pressure off and all of that, but that's where I expect them to be. What about the Lions? Do you see any shift from their last season?
It's possible, but real quick, I should address something. One of the things that I'll get into with the Lions is a loss. Actually, they lost both their defensive coordinator and their offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson was kind of seen as as far as coaches go, the prize of the offseason, and he went to the Bears. And I meant to bring that up when we were talking about the Bears. However, while I do think it's an improvement at head coach and it'll make them better in the long run, I don't know that I see this instantly throwing them into the same realm with the Vikings and the Packers and such. So again, right long-term move, but I don't know that it's going to just, that's it, just plug and play, everything's better now. So I am going to leave them right where they are, but I at least wanted to acknowledge that something I failed to acknowledge when I was talking about the Bears. As that relates to the Lions aren't entirely running it back with their team from last year, but so far it looks like they're primarily running it back. They've made a couple of kind of lateral moves with players, it would seem, at corner in particular. I think they brought in DJ Reed from the Jets, but then they lost someone who was similar, and it is the short version of it. These are meaningful, but I don't expect that to be much. Like I said, I think that's just kind of a lateral move. Like, you lost one guy, but you brought in a guy that should replace him pretty well. They've been drafting pretty well. One of the Arkansas Razorbacks went there. The Isaac, can't remember his first name. Tesla, however you say that last name.
Yeah,
and so that'll be fun, And they've done that well, and I like their culture there. So even though they lost DC and OC, I trust Dan Campbell's culture builder, and I'm trusting that he'll have the team in a similar enough place. as long as they're healthy. And of course, that goes for every team in this division. I would expect them to be back kind of in the same area that they were. So I would put them here. I think even with problems, I would have them here. And even as that relates to these other teams, it would be left to right. Like it would be like, yeah, they're all in this division, but I would be betting that the Lions were on top. But I'll have the Lions up here because I really do trust they have just this consistency thing going there, and it's just working really well. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'd have them. Quick question, as long as we're here, on that note, I was kind of bringing up there. Would you have it this way with the Packers slightly over the Vikings? Even if it's like
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think that it's the Lions' division to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I trust, and for me, it's as simple as I trust Jordan Love more than JJ. In the season they're going into and the teams they're going to have to play, I would pick Jordan Love to win more games. So that I think that's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd land the same way with it's just more of a proven quantity with the Packers. So I like what they're doing there. I think Golden makes a lot of sense for them, that especially that receiver they took in the first round. So we'll get to see eventually. We're actually right in when the schedule's coming out now, so there should be some really fun matchups they push out today. But that'll wrap up our NFC North. Next week, obviously, we're getting into the last division, the NFC South, which I think for me will actually be one of the harder divisions to predict. But that'll be fun. So until then, I'm Luke. That's Michael, and we're with a gang, just like we were 10 minutes ago. And we'd appreciate any likes and subscribes and all those clickety things. Hope you'll see us again next week, or for any other video that seems fun to you. Y'all have a great day.